Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally. Today I have 5 spring flips. I cannot wait for spring. You will have seen that I got my most recent amazing craft haul, and this paint was in it. Regularly, I believe $19, and I got it for about a third or 25% probably of that price. I think I pretty much got the whole thing at about 75% off. Now, I am taking a Dollar Tree box. I do not often do Dollar Tree crafts, but in my stash I had a number of Dollar Tree items, so I thought I would. And I just gave that one good coat and pulled out this IOD transfer scrap that I had left over. So once the paint was good and dry, I just went ahead and attached the transfer to the bottom inside of this little crate. Now you can get these crates at the dollar store all the time. They pretty much have them, at least at mine, all the time. And I think any scrap transfer, or if you know how to paint, freehand to paint a flower or some thing that you like. And then I had picked up these birds and a bunch of other things. They cost about maybe 10 cents a piece. They're like a thick sticker, and I got them half price at Hobby Lobby in a pack. And so I had to clip a little bit of his tail off to get him where I wanted him, but I just went ahead and attached this right over part of the transfer, and that sticks very well. Now, once I had that finished, I pulled out some Spanish moss and just glued that right into the bottom, sort of forming a little bit of a nest. And then I went into my stash and I found some green reindeer moss, I think it is. And I put a little bit of that on top of the Spanish moss just to give that a little bit more of a softer interior, looking a little more like a real bird's nest. And once I was finished with that, I went back to my stash to see, I know somewhere I have a whole bunch of eggs and I couldn't find them, but I did find these 2 on wire, and they were perfectly blush pinky peach. So that actually worked out great because that's sort of the colors I've been working with. And I just glued those 2 right into the nest. And it could be finished right here, but I thought I would do just a little bit more on the front. And I went into my scrapbooking. Gosh, I haven't scrapbooked in years, but I have a bunch of scrapbooking little things. And I just pulled out a little card that was already cut and had some script, and then tore off from this rice paper free printable that I had printed last year. I just went ahead and used some water on the rice paper to make it jagged, and that's just like a little bouquet of flowers. Just decoupaged that right on that little script, little piece of cardstock to put in the corner. And once I got that glued onto the corner, I added a little bow made out of the dollar store lace ribbon, and that is all I did to this, and I think it came out adorable. It has those blush colors that I'm using for Valentine's, but will also work very well for spring. I have been itching to do a few spring things, to use some of the Dollar Tree items, and also to use up some of the transfers that I have left over from other projects. Moved on to item number 2, and it is one of these beach signs that you can get at the dollar store. But honestly, any dollar store sign would work. I'll tell you what, I had quite a time trying to get that paper off. The star came right off pretty easily, but it's funny, when you want something to fall apart at the dollar store, it stays together well, and when you want it to stay together, it falls apart. But anyway, I ended up just getting off what I could and then just using the back, because I don't sell this stuff. This is just for me. So it didn't have to be perfect. 1 coat of the Annie Sloan Pure White was enough for this project. Now, once this was dry, I pulled out my tissue paper, which is my white music one that I absolutely love. And I wanted to try to use some of these scrap transfers on paper. I've never tried it on something as thin as tissue paper, so I was a little bit nervous. But actually, I was pleasantly surprised at how easy it was to do. Now, clearly, I kept the tool on the plastic so that it wouldn't go through the tissue paper and rip it. But it actually was, it lifted very easily off of the paper and came out really good. So I just cut out a few scraps that I had. Now this is last year's, I forget the name of this IOD transfer, but it has the peonies and the sunflowers, as well as the lavender with it. And it is absolutely beautiful. So some of these scrap pieces that I had left over. And then from the Whispering Willows, I had this bird left over and love this bird. I have been waiting to use it, and I thought it would be perfect right here on this. And so I just layered that over the top. And then I took the white board that I had painted from the Dollar Tree, and I decoupaged this right onto the center of that. Decoupaging tissue paper is a little tricky. It gets pretty wrinkled, so if you don't want wrinkles, you probably would need to use a brayer tool or something, but I used a little stick that came with the transfer, and that actually got quite a bit of the wrinkles out. I actually kind of like the wrinkles. It doesn't bother me at all. I think it goes with the aged look that I like. So, and it laid pretty flat, and you can use your hand as well, but you just have to be really careful not to rip the tissue paper, especially this tissue paper. This is a very thin paper. And then once I was finished with that, I had to go around the outside edge and just kind of lay down some of the edges. Now, normally I would take the antiquing wax out here and I would wax some of that around the outside edge, but I wanted to keep this one white. Also, I did go over all of it with some, just a small amount of the decoupage, because I wanted to make sure that the transfers stayed on the paper. I don't think they were going to go anywhere, but it's always a good idea to do that. And then I had this little scrap piece left over, a stamped little postcard looking thing I had printed on rice paper, and I just thought that went well with it. Then I pulled out a heart that I had in my stash and painted that off screen so you can barely see what I'm doing, but basically painting the other side. I like the black side and I'll use it again for something else, but for this project, just painted the back side white. Once that was dry, I pulled out another piece of my scrap booking, trying to use up some of that scrapbooking stuff as well, and just attached a little similar color heart to the center of that with a little bow. And then I used the original hanging jute twine stuff that came with the Dollar Tree sign to put that all back together again so that I could hang it. And I may do something different. Actually, wire might be something that I would like with this particular piece, because I think that I'm going to keep this piece for myself. And it is a little bit still wet with the decoupage here, but just to give you an idea of how that came out, I think it is adorable, and it's a pretty good size, that sign. So for what, $1 plus some scrap pieces, $1.25 these days, although for me, I bought it years ago. And then here is a piece I had done last year that I thought went very well with it. So to show you what that looks like together, I think it's so cute. You'll have to let me know what you think of that. And then that takes me on to the third item that I am making. Now this one, I am using the music sheet. Look at that. Back in the day, this book was $1.25. Really nice antiquing piece. And so since it worked so well to transfer paper, I decided that I would transfer a little bit of scrap flour that I had left over onto this. Now this particular sheet music is very brittle because it is so old. So it will work well with some projects, but it would not work well, say, to roll it into a cone or something like that. It may be too brittle for that. So once I got the flour on there that I liked, I thought that looked very sweet. I took an oval Dollar Tree wood, it's just an oval piece of wood, which I lost the footage here, but I basically am just, I put the decoupage on the bottom of the oval, laid it down, and then I put the decoupage on the top. Here's the back side of that oval. You can get them anywhere. And then once that was on that sheet music and dried well, I just took the sanding block and just sanded away the edge of the wood so that I could get the rest of the paper off of the wood. Now, I think this looks really adorable just as it is, but I had the antiquing wax and some clear wax mixed together and wanted to go around the outside edge and the back of this, and then just a little bit on the front to give that a little bit of that distressed aged look that I love so much. Now I could put this with a hanger to hang, or I could attach it to something framed. I think I'm going to end up framing it later into a larger item. So for right now, I am just going to prop it here with a few other things. I added a little lace bow on the stem, just until I decide. Sometimes you just want to keep working on a project till you know exactly what you want to do with it. And I think this would be really nice framed in a larger piece later on. So, but I love the way it looks here against the cutting board. Now that takes me on to the next project. Now I had picked this board up at a thrift store, I think, or even probably at the dump. Oh gosh, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now. So basically a Dollar Tree board would work for this as well. But I painted that, and then I think I ended up having to give that 2 coats of the white. And then I took out my paper clay. And this project gave me so much trouble. I worked the clay in my hand, rolled it out till I got the size I wanted, and then I took this little stamp that I had purchased last year for a couple of other projects, and I rolled the bird stamp right into the clay, put it on a cookie sheet, and then, not a cookie sheet, a cookie rack. I was in 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever. I flipped it over. So I flipped it over a couple of times just to make sure it was good and dry on both sides of that clay. Then gave a second coat to that board. And then the next day, when everything was completely dry, here is what it looks like. I took my E6000 and went ahead and just attached that to the center of the board. Now, here is where things get complicated. I had a very simple idea in my mind and expected that it was going to work the way that I wanted it to, which was to take my sepia ink to ink my ink pad with the 2 birds on it that I used for the clay, and to press that right into the impression that I made initially, and pretty much that would be it. Maybe distress the edges of this wood. Of course, we all know what it is, the best laid plans of mice and men. I pressed the inked pad into the impression that I had made in the clay, and I like the sepia color. I thought it would be great to just do that, add some edging on the outside of the board, and voila, it would be finished. However, what happened was, as you can tell, it pretty much just filled in the inside of one bird, making it hard to tell what the heck this is. So I thought, okay, fine, I will take the ink pad and see if I can just distress over it and see if that will help. I don't think that it did. So then I was thinking, okay, what should I do? Should I add more antiquing wax? So I take out the antiquing wax and the clear wax mixed, and I fill in the entire mold, and then take a rag and wipe that back. And then I say, I think now maybe it's too dark. So I will take some clear wax and I will just get rid of some of that dark wax in the middle. So then I take out the clear wax and try to rub away. So I cannot make this look like I want it to look in my mind. So I am frustrated. And after I wipe this away, I just decide to put it away and wait and see what I can figure out the next day. And the next day I decide I am going to try taking out my white paint and dry brush over the whole thing and see. At the end of the day, I am going to call this a fail. I cannot make it do what I want it to do. At this point, I'm done with this project. So here it is on my mantle, and I probably will end up peeling it off and starting over. So for my final project, I pulled out those little birds and flower stickers that I had gotten at Hobby Lobby with another Dollar Tree sign. And I just painted that sign over with a couple coats of white paint. And then I am decoupaging a scripture verse that I printed on the rice paper. And I love decoupaging with the rice paper. If you have never tried it, it definitely works much easier than tissue paper. It prints easily on your printer without catching or getting all bound up in there, and it's a little bit thicker, so it just really works well, no wrinkles. Now I did decoupage over the top. You don't have to, it depends on what you're gonna do with your piece, but I tend to like to put just one coat of the decoupage on top. And then once that is fully dry, I just pulled out a little hummingbird and a little flower to go with my scripture and stuck those on where I wanted them and added a little bow. And that is all I did to this little project. So simple, $1 for the board, maybe 10 cents each. So, $1.25, $1.30 by the time I'm done with this project. Just really cute. So here it is, very simple. I would love to know what you think of these, which one you preferred. I really love both sheet music ones myself. Thank you for stopping by. I will see you in the next one. Take care.